respiration तक हो गया है, then start studying the part on transportation. Now, from this valves you have to take. You draw a single line diagram. No need of drawing a double line diagram. Okay. Now, for example, what do I mean when I say a double line diagram? But you can just make it a little bit bold. That's enough for you. Get finished? Okay, so this is what I am drawing now, one part of the pulmonary artery. So you have to draw the other part now. The other part will always arise from here. It's a vessel, so you have to draw it like a blood vessel. You can make a single line diagram and broaden it out. Don't try making every single line double line. Ultimately, if you are not very good in drawing, the diagram looks very messy. So the pulmonary artery is done. Let us take now this chambers. Which chamber am I drawing? This is the right auricle. Where is it? I'm drawing this part. This is the chamber that I'm drawing. The second draw it a little bit straight. This is wrong. Straight up. Last is but this particular aorta, if you want, you can show branches, otherwise no need. You don't use any color. If you want to show any difference, only by shading, dark light, you can show a difference if at all you want to. Otherwise, you can generally draw a simple diagram, not a problem. Don't use any colors. Try labeling few parts only on the left side. Now see this chamber, you should not cut cross and label that side. So few only try labeling on the left side. As many possible, put all on the right side. Label the parts. Next time when you draw the diagram, always make it a point. See here, the upper part has become too big. No, you will understand. The upper part has become too big, and the lower part is comparatively small. Next time you draw the diagram again, the lower part you draw first, and then the upper part. In fact, if the upper part, if you are a little bit drawing smaller, shorter, actually that is what in our board also the upper part is small, lower part is long. So try to correct that. Now you complete, no problem. You have to practice this 4-5 times. So next time you remember. And then these vessels also that you are drawing, no, it should be in the form of a tube. हमारे body में tube जैसे सीधा सीधा straight तो नहीं होता. Actually, these structures are so well defined like this, but for the ease of understanding drawing, हम ऐसे draw करते हैं. So tubes are all crooked and bent and wrapped out, you know that way. So the vessels that you draw also is a little bit curved. Okay, देखा ये जो balloon यहाँ पे that you're drawing, it's a curve. Okay, this one I'm saying. You just have to use one to be this curve attached, and then here this curve is attached. यहाँ पे तुमने बहुत लंबा ले लिया डिस्टेंस. So the distance इतने में हो जाना चाहिए. मैंने अभी क्या बोला, पेंसिल से ही शेड करना है, कोई पार्ट को प्रोमिनेंट दिखाना है, वैल्यूज को प्रॉपर ड्रॉ करना है, ओनली विद पेंसिल. लाइट डार्क शेडिंग से करो, नो प्रॉब्लम, बट डोंट यूज पेन. Color pens, not at all. Bit faster, complete karo fast. We're learning about the land transportation. So next class we'll start with kidneys. बोर्ड में पूछा गया diagram, draw a neat diagram for the human heart and label such and such parts. So for drawing they will give you 2 marks, for labeling they will give you maybe 4 parts to label, 6 parts to label, that type of questions. It's a 5-mark question. Because for CBSE it can be a 5 or a 6-mark question also. Where now the pattern of question is a little bit different, where they will give you some functions, and based on the function, whichever the part that you have to do. For example, draw a neat diagram of the human heart and label the following parts. Number 1, chamber which receives deoxygenated blood. So that will be the answer only. Practice करोगे तो हो जाएगा. Just 4-5 times you need to practice the diagram as per the method that I told you. Because the diagram of the heart में क्या है? Proportion matters a lot. If your upper part is bigger, too big, lower part is small, it will not look good. Because for the alimentary canal and the respiratory system, it is easier. Because alimentary canal, if you draw the intestine part little bit long also, does not matter. The diagram does not look odd. But इसलिए क्या है? The diagram looks odd. Complete fast. Last 5 more minutes. Complete करो fast, all of you. It's not proportionate. Are you able to understand? The upper part as if has no relation with the lower part. Are you समझ में? So where did it go wrong is these vessels that you are drawing, say suppose from here, you have to draw it till here, then यहाँ से जो आया vessel, it has become broad here and now here, तो proportion नहीं है. So because this part also little bit, it has become too broad, and it is not like this. It is apple shaped नहीं, it is conical, है ना? And then this and this distance has become too big. See, so ये अगर यहाँ पे होता ना, then ऐसे करके it is like. अभी complete करो. Next time when you draw, remember. Done. No. Done. Finish fast. Physics, chemistry, I finished. How many chapters? 2 chapters. 1 chapter over. 2 chapters done. 3. 3 done. Very good.
Second is going on.
Second is going on. All comfortable, right? Maths भी काफी हो गया है. 5th chapter going on. So how was your experience in the month of May? Say with a big broad smile, ma'am, it was very good. We learned so many things ahead of the school. Now that you go to the school, now that these chapters are taught, that should be a revision for you. Whenever these topics and these words and the concepts are being taught, that should be before. It should happen that yes, I know it. Again, let me just listen to this properly. So it should be a revision for you, but it will be a revision for you perhaps before the class when the topics are done. You go through once. Otherwise, then you have no benefit. Before these topics are taught, go through once. Go through once. When you go through once, you'll be able to understand better. All are done almost. Okay, next is a small topic. Let me just show you this because transportation in plants you have not studied before at all. Transportation in plants don't have the basis. Just check this. Xylem and phloem, you know, right? What is xylem? What is phloem? You know. So
At the end of this session, you will be able to form cells, water. Plant roots absorb water and minerals of the soil. Water absorption is mainly carried out by root hairs. These narrow-walled hairs greatly increase the area over which water absorption can take place. Water and minerals enter the root by two pathways: apoplastic pathway and symplastic pathway. If water and minerals move from cell to cell through spaces between the cell walls, then it is known as apoplastic pathway.
this is not much
In
required.
symplastic pathway, the water and minerals move across the cytoplasm and finally reaches the xylem. Xylem vessels are long, narrow, hollow tubes containing no living material. The xylem transports water and soluble mineral nutrients from the roots to other parts of a plant. About 95% of the water absorbed is lost through the stomata present in the leaves. This process is known as transpiration. The number of stomata is more on the lower surface of leaves. If transpiration happens throughout the day, then there will be a great loss of water. This is controlled by the stomatal opening and closing mechanism. During the daytime, water enters into the guard cells along with the potassium ions. This brings about a change in the shape of the guard cells, and the stoma opens. During the night, the potassium ions and water molecules leave the guard cells. Thus, the turgidity decreases and the stoma closes. Stomata also act as main sites of gaseous exchange in plants. Leaves make use of water and the carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. Glucose formed during photosynthesis is transported to the other parts of the body through phloem cells. Phloem tissue consists of less specialized and nucleate parenchyma cells, sieve tube cells, and companion cells. Transport of food in phloem can be up or down the stem to reach all parts of the plant. Hence, the transportation in plants is the function of xylem and phloem cells.
Okay, so this is just an introduction. What you are going to study is a basic concept of transportation. Transportation in plants, when we talk about, what are you going to understand? From the concept of tissues, if I try introducing, from the concept of tissues, you already know the word xylem, phloem, their job, that much is very clear to you. Now, this is a plant. What are we going to understand? This is a plant. This plant has got two major types of tissue. So that is how straight away to understand. This particular plant has got the arrangement of two types of tissues. Which are the two types of tissues? The first one that I talk about should be the xylem. So let us start with the xylem first. So this xylem is always present as a, already in that video you have seen that the xylem consists of different types of cells, and these cells are arranged in the form of a tube connecting the root and the stem and the branches and the veins of a leaf. So now when I talk about that the xylem, where are they present? The xylem is always connecting the root to the upper parts of the plant. And this is a complex tissue. I already know this, that this xylem, which is a complex tissue, is actually made up of 4 different types of cells. Yes or no? These are made up of 4 different types of cells, and all these cells are arranged in the form of a tube, resulting in the formation of a continuous pathway for the movement of the water and the minerals. Now, transportation of what we are supposed to know? Transportation of water minerals by the xylem, transportation of food by the fluid. So now, transportation of water, how would the water enter the leaf, and why should the water enter the leaf? What are some of the basic terms, processes that you have to understand? I would start saying this, that this entire xylem tube is made up of what, or consisting of what? The entire xylem tube is consisting of water molecules filled up. Let us assume that the entire xylem tube is containing a whole lot of water. But the outside temperature is hot, outside temperature is high, air is dry. Under all these conditions, what would happen? These water droplets would get converted in the form of vapor, a process known as transpiration. So what is the meaning of this word transpiration? Loss of water in the form of water vapor. But now that this loss of water in the form of water vapor has happened, what is happening to this xylem tube? What is this tube that I am drawing? This is the xylem that I am talking about. And this entire xylem tube, it is becoming a little bit empty. You know, there's a vacuum getting created because so much of the water is lost in the form of vapor. But this entire empty space, that is the vacuum that is getting created, how will this fill up? How will this be occupied again? The entire column of the water will start moving up. It is not one single molecule of water replacing the empty space, but the entire column of water moves up because of certain theories, because of certain properties. So the entire column of water moves up. Okay, if I believe that the entire column of water moving up, then what should happen? This entire column of water moving up, but definitely there will be an empty space now created at the lower region of the xylem tube. So this lower region of the xylem tube, I may understand, this lower region of the xylem tube is also associated with the root cells. Which are the cells I am drawing? These are the root hair cells that I am drawing. So this root hair cells is a plant cell, so definitely they will be having a vacuum. Surrounding the root hair cells, what is there? Surrounding the root hair cells, there is adequate water. Yes, water, minerals, salts, everything that I have to understand. There is enough of water and minerals in the soil. Because the plant is losing so much of water by transpiration, the xylem tube is becoming empty. Every time the xylem tube becomes empty, the column of water goes up. Every time column of water goes up, an empty space here. How will this empty space be filled up? By the water given by the root cell. But the question is, how will the root cell get the water? Why should the root cell take the water from the soil? Because these root cells, when it is giving away water to the xylem tube, is the sap of the root cell becoming concentrated?
Yes, ma'am.
What is that? We had studied last year, cell organelle. What is that?
Cell sap is white liquid which is present inside the stems of
Like, no.
Ma'am, cell sap is a liquid in plant cells.
Inside the cells?
Inside the cells, which is used to store fats and other.
अच्छा, function नहीं चाहिए मुझे. What is cell sap? What was cell sap we had studied last year? Cell sap is the amount of the water and the minerals present in the vacuole of every plant cell. What is cell sap? So I just now said that this empty space has to be filled up by what? Water. तो यहाँ पे water कौन supply करेगा? The root cells will supply the water. So this root supply is the root cell is supplying the water, and now that the root cell is supplying the water, definitely the root cell which was having a vacuole big enough and so much of water, so much of sap, so this root cell is giving away water to this. The sap of the root cell is becoming hypertonic. Hypertonic मतलब the sap is becoming concentrated, मतलब solute ज़्यादा हो गया, water कम हो गया. Is the water moving around along with solutes? No, it is only the water moving out. It is only the water moving out majorly. ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा solutes still remaining here, so much of solutes remaining here, and the sap is becoming hypertonic. Since the sap is becoming hypertonic, this cell will absorb water from the surrounding. Or if I say the other way, this cell now has got more of water. This will have a tendency of giving water to this cell. अब ये सब हो गया hypertonic. This cell is now giving away water, and now this cell is becoming hypertonic. So what now next? This cell will absorb water from the soil. This cell will absorb water from the soil. So this process by which the root cells are absorbing water from the soil, what is this process? Osmosis. What is this process? Osmosis. So what is the link and the continuity क्या है? Since the water is lost from the xylem tube because of this process transpiration, the xylem tube is becoming empty. So water will have to be filled by the root cells progressively. So if I talk about a series of root cells, how is that? In this video I have shown you a little bit of concept that why is the root cell constantly taking in the soil water? What is the reason that the root cells are absorbing the water from the soil? Because every time every root cell is giving water to the nearby xylem, and the root cells are becoming hypertonic. They are becoming water deficient हो जाता है. So since they are becoming water deficient, definitely the soil water which is hypotonic, the soil water diluted. The sap inside the plant cell is concentrated. So that is the reason the water from the soil enters the root cells. What is this process we are talking about? A process known as osmosis. So how does water enter the root cells? A process known as osmosis. But now the water has entered the root cell, and yes, we understand that the water is moving from one cell to the other cell, going to the xylem tube. But this process of transpiration will decide how fast this process should be. On a hot summer day, this process is very fast. On a monsoon day, this process is slow. So there must be a pulling force in the xylem tube. Yes, the moment now if I understand on a monsoon day, this much is the water loss. So definitely this pulling force is lesser. On a hot summer day, at any one period of time, this much is the water loss. So definitely the pulling force is much bigger. Fatafat, the soil is getting dried out, that's why. On a hot summer day, the soil is getting dried out very fast. In that same duration, 3 hours, if I consider in a monsoon day, no, the soil will still remain so wet. So what is this pulling force in the xylem tube known as, which decides the entire process of movement out of the water? This is known as transpirational pull. This is what is known as transpirational pull. So what is transpirational pull? The pulling force which is developed in the xylem tube due to continuous transpiration, which decides the movement of the water from the roots to the upper parts. Clear? So this is about the transportation of the water by the xylem. Next concept क्या है? Yes, I have to also understand that surrounding this there are the leaves now, and every single leaf has got some specialized cells. Cells के अंदर they have got some specialized pigments, cell organelle, which is that cell organelle which produces chlorophyll. Chloroplast. So chloroplast produces chlorophyll. Chlorophyll helps in the formation of the food. The food in what form? Glucose. So now that the food is produced in the glucose in every single leaf cell, in the cells of the guard cells which is there in the leaf, the chloroplast is helping in the formation of the food in the form of glucose. Now what will happen to the glucose? Now if I understand what is the surrounding tissue, what is the other tissue? Now from the cells of the leaf, I can also think of another system of tube. What is this system of tube surrounding the xylem? I may talk about another system of tube here surrounding the xylem. What is this system of tube surrounding the xylem? This system of tube surrounding the xylem is known as the phloem. So what is this phloem doing? Every phloem will remain, or every leaf will remain connected to the phloem of the plant. Every single leaf, now we talk about hundreds of leaves in every particular plant, will always remain connected to the nearby phloem. So now, if I understand that this is a particular leaf which is preparing the glucose, what is the fate? This glucose will get dissolved in the phloem of this plant. So now that they get dissolved in the phloem, in what form is the food formed in the plant? The food is formed in the plant in the form of glucose. What is the form in which the food is formed in the plant? Glucose. But immediately this glucose will get converted to which simpler form, the sucrose, and then this sucrose, with complex form, the sucrose, and this sucrose will now get dissolved where? In the phloem cells. They will get dissolved in the phloem cells and then distributed all over the plant. But this distribution can be in all possible directions. इस तरह से भी हो सकता है. Distribution can be this way also. Distribution can be this way also, because we are talking about a network of phloem tubes all over the plant. Then what is this process of distribution of the soluble food known as? This process of distribution of the soluble food is known as translocation. And what is this movement of the water by the xylem tubes known as? This is known as ascent of sap. Okay, so only this much you have to study. That talking about a plant, the two major vascular bundles, how are they arranged? More or less xylem in the center and phloem always on either sides of the xylem. So I would also say that the phloem is very close to the bark of a plant, the margins of a branch, the outer margin of a vein. So every particular region, if I think of जहाँ पे xylem है, उसके आसपास phloem है. And then the xylem will always be involved in the carrying of the water minerals. What are the processes involved at the level of the roots osmosis? And up there, majorly the transpirational pull is dragging and pulling the water up there, releasing it to the upper parts. Process transpiration, how is it related? You have to remember. So that is the story of the xylem. Back again to phloem. You have to remember the leaves manufacturing food by photosynthesis in what form? Glucose. And now this glucose molecule will get dissolved in the cells of the phloem. Now that they get dissolved in the cells of the phloem in this particular form, the phloem will distribute the food in all directions. What is one difference between the xylem and the phloem when you talk about the direction? Xylem can take water minerals only upwards. Unidirectional, upwards. What about the phloem? In all directions. So this process, translocation, and xylem ascent of sap. Yeah. So for transportation of plants, only this much you have to remember. But this terms and definitions that I gave discussed, this you have to remember. Let us write down just one or two questions. I'll just give you the questions based on this. Try answering few questions so you remember what actually to study from this part of the chapter. Define translocation and ascent of sap. Define translocation and ascent of sap. Define translocation and ascent of sap, right? The distribution of food
Ascent of sap.
for translocation and ascent of sap. Let us write for translocation first. The distribution of food in the form of sucrose, by the phloem in all directions, in a plant is known as translocation. Full stop. Go to the next paragraph. The upward movement of water and minerals, from the roots to the aerial parts. Now, upper part of the plant is not a very correct word to write. You should write aerial part, meaning till the leaves. The aerial parts of the plant by the xylem. Aerial parts of the plant by the xylem is known as ascent of sap. Next question. What are the two main processes? What are the two main processes involved in? The distribution of water and minerals in a plant. What are the two main forces involved in the distribution of water and minerals in a plant? What are the two main processes? What are the two main processes which help in the distribution of the water and the minerals? What are I supposed to write? Osmosis, and what is the other process which helps in transpiration? Because of transpiration, the transpirational pull. Transpiration and osmosis. You get a 3-mark question. Explain the process of distribution of water by the xylem. अब इसमें xylem cells also you should write the names of the cells. So that is not very explanatory about the cell structure का कुछ नहीं लिखना है, but then as per your syllabus you are supposed to at least mention the names of the cells. Do you remember what are the names of the cells of xylem? नहीं, वो phloem का है.
Xylem fiber, xylem parenchyma, campylus is phloem.
But mammalian cells?
No, phloem का. So when you are describing xylem, then you have to mention the names of these 4 cells. When you are now you get as a 3-mark question. Discuss the movement of the food in the phloem. Explain the movement of the water minerals in the xylem. So these names you have to write. We'll just complete with this question and we are done for today. I'll give you this answer. This is a question of your textbook itself. It is a question of NCERT itself, and it has come in many years. Either water transport या तो food transport आता ही है for 1.5, 2 marks, 3 marks के लिए. So let us write out How is transport by the xylem and phloem? How does transport by xylem and phloem? How is transport by the xylem and phloem brought about in a plant? So the answer remains same. Questions are framed in 10 different ways. So once you know the answer, you can apply. Let us write. Just in points you write down, and later elaboration you do on your own after reading the text if you want. Write down.
Ma'am, how is transport by xylem and phloem?
Done in a plant. In a plant, how is the process carried out? Right? The movement of water from the roots, movement of water and minerals, movement of water and minerals from the roots to the upper part of the plant is brought about by the xylem.
Upper part of plant.
Is brought about by xylem. Continue. Xylem is a tubular arrangement of cells. Xylem is a tubular arrangement of cells connecting. Xylem is a tubular arrangement of cells connecting the roots, stem, connecting the root, stem, branches, and the veins of the leaf. Full stop. Next point. The xylem tube is made up of four types of cells. Trachees. स्पेलिंग याद है कि वो भी बताना पड़ेगा? याद है? बता.
TRACHEA.
हाँ? नहीं.
CHEA.
TRACHEA तो विंड पाइप हो गया. Trachees. So what I said, what was the sentence? Made up of four types of cells: trachees, vessels, xylem parenchyma, and xylem sclerenchyma, या तो fibers. Any of the words you can write. Xylem parenchyma and xylem fibers. Full stop. The trachees and vessels are primary cells. Trachees and vessels, you missed out? Trachees and vessels are primary cells involved in the movement of the water. Full stop. Next point. The loss of water from the xylem tubes. Loss of water from the xylem tubes by transpiration results in formation of the loss of water from the xylem tubes by transpiration results in formation of empty spaces. Which generates a a pulling force which generates a pulling force or a suction force known as what?
Transpirational pull.
Transpirational pull, known as transpirational pull. Full stop. This suction force allows water from the root cells to enter the xylem tubes to fill the empty spaces. Full stop. Last point for xylem, the continuous entry of soil water into the root cells is brought about by a process known as osmosis. Continuous entry of soil water into the root cells is brought about by a process known as osmosis. This is about the movement of the water minerals. Next paragraph, look up. The movement of the food, you can leave one line. I'm just giving you the entire detailed points that according to your question you have to mold and reframe your answer. The movement of the distribution of the movement over right, the distribution of the soluble food is brought about by the phloem. Right now, next. Phloem is a tubular arrangement of tissue. Connecting the leaves to all parts of the plant. Phloem is a tubular arrangement of tissue connecting leaves to all parts of the plant. Next point. Phloem consists of 4 types of cells. Sieve tube. Sieve का spelling क्या है?
SIEVE.
Sieve tubes, comma, companion cells, phloem parenchyma
And phloem fibers.
and phloem fibers. Next point, the food formed in the leaves by a process known as photosynthesis. This is the form of glucose. First up, Glucose is converted to fructose, I'm sorry, sucrose. Glucose is converted to sucrose and is dissolved in the phloem cells. Dissolved meaning in the sap of the phloem cells. You have to understand at the sap of the phloem cells. And is distributed dissolved in the phloem cells and is distributed in all directions to different parts of the plant. To different parts of the plant. Last point, the prominent cells involved in this distribution, the prominent cells involved are seed tubes and companion cells. Prominent cells involved are seed tubes and companion cells. This process is known as translocation. This process is known as translocation. Okay, so we are done with this concept of transportation in human, in animals, at the same time for a plant. So for a plant, only this much about the xylem types of cells, phloem, the basic methods, the words you have to study. Now, homework for you is go through the text, go through the NCERT textbook. Till transportation we are done, we are left with only the last part of the chapter, that is excretion. So please go through till transportation. Okay. So off and on, I will give you short tests, mock tests on. I've already completed with nutrition, respiration, transportation. So please go through. Once you go through, you will have doubts. Clarify your doubts from time to time.
पागल ये इधर अटका हुआ है और तुझे लगता है वो बंद होने वाला है ये देख वो काट के ले ली नहीं तोड़ दो क्या देख वो काट के ले नहीं है वो अटका हुआ है नहीं जा ओके भाई बस ठीक है कुछ दिन गाइस भी पूरा चेन ओपन करके आई थी अपना मन बैग वाला चेन